Hey my loves, it's Jodie and welcome back to my channel. I can't believe how quickly 2025 flew by. Personally, it has been a pretty rough year. Ever since, I would say, January, I've been looking forward for this year to be over because frankly speaking, I haven't really had a good year. On the bright side, I am hoping that 2026 will be a lot better and things will go smoothly. 2025 is kind of the year I revived my channel, and I'm really grateful for those of you who have stuck around and a few of the new friends that I've made and anyone new watching. So thank you so much and welcome. Without blabbing on too much, I'm here to share my favorite books of 2025. I'm going to go down in descending order from number 10 all the way to my favorite book of the year. As I was compiling my list of books for this video, I realized I've actually lent a lot of these physical books to my friends and family because I recommended them so highly, so I'll just put a picture up for reference for you guys. Sitting at number 10 is the book I Who Have Never Known Men. Now this is quite different to what I normally read. The only reason I even picked it up in the first place is because it was our book club pick for the month. It follows this unnamed woman who spends her entire life imprisoned with 39 other women, and she's the youngest one there. She hasn't really experienced life outside or doesn't have much memory of her life except her time in the prison. Prison guards don't speak to them, they kind of just keep them alive, and essentially they don't know why they're in prison, how long they'll be there for, or if they will ever get out. But some event happens and she suddenly finds herself alone and having to deal with identity, belonging, and what it means to be human and companionship. Honestly, not much happens in terms of action, but so much happens in the emotional sense. It's about solitude, survival, and what it means to be human when the connection is taken away. I just loved how haunting and thought-provoking it was, and it was honestly the perfect pick for a book club because it's very good for discussion and just hearing everyone's thoughts and their take on what the story meant to them. This is just one of those books that stick with you. Sitting at number 9 is Rebel Witch. This is the second book to the Crimson Moth duology, and I read the first one last year and I really enjoyed it. It's got some serious enemies to lovers energy, and I obviously can't say too much because it's the second book, but the premise of the first book is we follow Rune, who is a witch herself, but she lives in a society where witches are hunted. So essentially she hides her identity and is a socialite by day, but at night she actually tries and rescues these witches who's been captured. And Gideon, which is our male main character, is her true enemy. He is the head guard to be hunting these witches like Rune. So when their paths collide, everything starts to unravel. There's a rebellion, there's forbidden magic, and a lot of tension. And I just liked how morally grey all the characters are. They do some questionable things, different values, and no one's really right or wrong either way. And the romance there really felt earned. It wasn't really rushed. The second book kind of follows on with that, and they obviously go on a different adventure, and I thought it really wrapped the duology really nicely, and I just really loved being in their world. Number 8 is 1984. I really wanted to read a classic this year and I finally did it. I'm so proud of myself. Honestly, I didn't think I was smart enough to read this book, but as I was reading it, it's actually scary how relevant a lot of the topics still is till this day, especially with all that's going on in the world currently. So the story follows Winston, who lives in a society where the government controls everything. Information they're given, the history, people's thoughts, they have no privacy. You've got like a screen in your room, you're constantly monitored. Watching him search for the truth was really intense and unsettling. I love this book because it doesn't just tell you about oppression, it writes it in a way that makes you really feel it. I'm genuinely surprised by this book and I really highly recommend you to read it. Number 7, we have Nora Goes Off Script. Now this is totally different vibe from the previous book. It's very comforting read, very sweet contemporary romance. The story follows Nora, who is a romance screenwriter whose life is kind of falling apart after her divorce. But then her screenplay is being made into a movie. They've decided what better place than to film it at her family home. Of course, that's a great idea. And the male character who acts as the main character in her story is this like famous star who ends up hanging around and staying in her house. So they spend quite a bit of time together and their relationship grows gradually in a very natural and realistic way. And I just loved how mature this romance felt. It's funny, warm, and very heartfelt. I think I read it in 2 days. I couldn't put this book down. And honestly, Annabelle Monaghan is one of my favorite authors. She writes books that transform me into a different world and I really forget that I'm reading. I highly recommend all of her books. Number 6 is The Silent Patient. Now, this is a psychological thriller that completely threw me. It centers around Alicia, who is a painter herself, and she has shot her husband and obviously he's passed away. And since that incident, she has not spoken a single word to anyone. She hasn't explained her actions or denied. She just stayed silent. And Theo, our male main character, is a psychotherapist who is obsessed with this case and really feels like he can get Alicia to start speaking again. So the story kind of switches between perspective, there's like parallel timelines, and oh my god, that plot twist got me good. My jaw was on the floor. I finished the book and I just had to sit there and just rethink my whole life as a reality. That's how good it was. So if you haven't read it, a really, really fantastic thriller is The Silent Patient. At number 5, we have Onyx Storm. I don't think I need to say much. It is the 3rd book to the Empyrean series. I feel like everyone has read Fourth Wing, so I'm not going to go into it at all. But it is a wonderful, wonderful world, and I absolutely adore our dragons and our characters, obviously. I hope we don't have to wait too long for the 4th book because Rebecca Yarros keeps putting in these cliffhangers at the end of her book that makes you want to throw the book across the room because you're just like, why now have to wait over a year for the next one? And I've lent Fourth Wing and Iron Flame to so many of my friends and I've converted them into readers. If you still haven't read it, I don't know what you're doing, but just pause this video and just start that. At number 4, we have Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. Now, this book destroyed me in the best way possible. I didn't know you can feel so much for any character and just feel like you're observing their life, but you just never get enough of them. It follows Johnny, who is a rugby player who's under immense pressure from playing at a very high level, and Shannon, who is this quiet girl who carries around a lot more trauma than anyone around her realizes. Their relationship is a slow burn built on trust, safety, and understanding. What I loved most about this book is how gentle it is with the characters, and you're just observing them live their life, but you really form a strong emotional attachment to them. It is heavy, but full of compassion and healing. I do suggest checking up trigger warnings because there is some serious issues that gets addressed. Chloe Walsh just writes it in such a respectful manner, but makes you feel all the emotions at the same time about these very serious topics. If you haven't already read it, take this as a sign and go and read it. At number 3, we have the entire ACOTAR series. And I know what you're thinking, I'm missing one book, and that's because my friend currently is borrowing it. Now, this series needs no introduction, but it so deserves a spot on this list. I love the character growth throughout the books, the romance, the world building, the magic, and the way that each book adds a new layer in this world is just so magical. And I'm absolutely obsessed with this world. If this world exists, 100% I will be flying there. At number 2, we have The Conditions of Will by Jessa Hastings. Now, I didn't go into this book with too high expectations because I didn't want to be disappointed because I read the Magnolia Park series. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, did this book wow me. We follow Georgia, who is a professional walking lie detector, essentially, who can read your body language and know exactly what you're thinking. She's had this falling out with her family a couple of years ago, and she's only really in contact with her brother, who is a recovering alcoholic. Now, at the beginning of the book, their dad passes away, which means Georgia, who's moved out, must now return back to the States to attend the funeral, and her brother has brought his sponsor, Sam Penny. Now, Sam Penny is a wonderful man. Now, men like that don't exist in real life. I know. Boy, is he the epitome of book boyfriends. The way that Jessa Hastings explores family dynamics and sibling relationships was so natural. As an only child, I've never felt that, but through Jessa's writing, I feel like I've got a good understanding of what it would be like to have those siblings. Not only was the plot really gripping, the romance was perfect, but the way that she wrote the family dynamic was altogether just chef's kiss. So please, 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 if you haven't read this book already, go and pick it up. Now we're down to our top read of the year. It's a little bit unexpected, not a genre I normally go for, but it has surpassed every other book I've read this year, and it is The Diary of a CEO. It's a mix of like a diary and a life guide essentially. Each chapter breaks down lessons about success, relationships, discipline, and self-belief, but in a very honest, no fluff way. What I loved most was how easy it was to read and how digestible the information was. I don't normally read much about finance, discipline, and success, so I thought it was going to be quite daunting to get into it, but honestly, the way that Stephen Bartlett wrote it was so easy to digest, and he says it as it is. And it doesn't glamorize success. It talks about failure, insecurities, and growth in a way that's actually motivating. And I've taken a lot of lessons from this book that I've now directly translated into my life. You don't have to be a finance guru or an entrepreneur to read this book, but if you want to be in control of your life and kind of be mindful about how you position yourself and the things that you say, how you say it, how the world perceives you, and be your own CEO of your life, then I would highly, highly recommend you read this book. So that's it. That's my favorite books of 2025. Please let me know down in the comments below what were your favorite books of the year and what you recommend for me to read in the new year. Thank you for watching as always, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.